Welcome back to the RunThrough Trails Podcast. We're back for another episode, this time in my living room. And we're joined again by Gemma, who's been on the podcast quite a few times now. This has been a long time coming and we've got loads to talk about. But yeah, Gemma's fresh off an amazing performance at CCC by UTMB. So we've got loads to talk about. But first of all, welcome back, Gemma.
Thank you for having me back on. And it's nice to be in Annecy and in the mountains and recording this.
Nice. We're going to do our weird microphone swinging thing. If you're listening, it probably works quite well. If you're watching, you're probably thinking, what are they doing? But yeah, one mic, two people. So, lots to talk about. Obviously, we want to talk about the race and all the things leading up to it. I know that the last time that we spoke was in your living room, and we talked about, that was post Chianti, wasn't it? After Chianti. Yeah. So why don't we go all the way back to kind of after that? I know that you kind of had a few niggles and like injury struggles, and then you've obviously signed with Hoka, and like loads of other stuff happened since, and then you've basically spent most of the summer based in Chamonix training and prepping for CCC. So take us all the way back to post Chianti, biggest performance of your life, definitely best trail result, and kind of like, whatever the few weeks after that and what happened.
Yeah, so I think we did the whole episode on Chianti and what happened there, and getting first there was just incredible. And as you said, like points wise and performance wise, winning a first World Series is amazing. And my brain feels a little bit dead, so I am going back, but I did 100k on Friday. Still a little bit tired. But yeah, I actually think started to go, I had a great year leading up to that. But then 2 weeks after Chianti, I got back running, and then I felt some pain in my glute and my lower back. And I actually ended up having a glute med tear, which was like quite scary at the time because I just had an amazing race and you want to move with that momentum and you've got so much fitness behind you. And then, having that tear, whether that I didn't feel it in the race, whether it came from the race because it was so muddy and, your glute meds work really hard to stabilize. And it was just left over from the race. We don't really know because I had 2 weeks basically off. And then this thing started to appear. And so then I had to have like 6 to 8 weeks fully on the bike. And it was about 11 weeks before CCC. And I was starting to doubt, is this actually possible? You're going to do the longest race of your life and you're starting your build up with just biking. And we were able to go on the step machine. So that was really helpful. But you've got a lot of descending and a lot of climbing, and you're going to go out to the mountains and, how's everything going to respond? So that was kind of the start of the build, which was pretty, kind of scary because you have a lot of doubts, but also I think it was the most professional I've ever dealt with an injury as well.
It definitely seemed that way. Like, obviously we talk quite consistently, and I speak to Lewis all the time. And so to me, externally, it seemed like you'd come off this amazing win. You obviously had plans to race at CCC. You had all kind of the summer laid out. The Hoka stuff was like just on the horizon or was just happening. I don't know. Was the Hoka deal signed before Chianti or was that straight after?
So it was after Chianti. I signed with Hoka in June, beginning of June, but I'd had the footwear to try from like February. So the number one decision for me around signing with a brand is the footwear because that's what I'm racing in and I want to be comfortable. So I went out to Gran Canaria, did a training trip and tested all the footwear out there. And I was like, these are, pretty good shoes. So before Chianti conversations. And then obviously the win in Chianti was, kind of sealed the deal.
Okay, nice. Yeah. So like I knew that stuff was kind of going on. So externally it seemed like just on the up. Everything's working out, getting the contract, sorting out the kit, having an amazing race, all the plan for the summer, like everything kind of going to plan. And then I remember we had a chat at some point after that, and you said, "Oh, I've been on the bike for the last like whatever at the time when we spoke, like month or 6 weeks or whatever." Which I had no idea, and I think that's the case a lot of the time. You see, as like spectators of the sport, or when you're following athletes and you're watching people progress through, you might be dealing with little niggles or injuries, or training might not be going that well, or you might be ill, or whatever stuff isn't going to plan. And you assume that for everyone else, it's all super smooth and like going really well. But in reality, and as we talked about with a lot of people over the weekend at UTMB and in all the races, it very rarely does go completely to plan. And I suppose that's a huge part of being a professional athlete and kind of living that lifestyle. So when that was happening, because you obviously had a huge high and then all these other positives kind of stacking up, did the fact that you just had this performance and you had this huge race coming up and you just signed a contract and all these like really good things, did that make dealing with the injury even more difficult? Or were you able to kind of like manage that quite well?
Yeah, it is interesting because it was the first injury I'd had for 2 years. So I was like, this is so typical, like of me, previous Gemma, of like being in really good shape. But luckily I did have the performance. So often, like years ago, it used to be in really good shape, boom, injury. And just I think but me biomechanically is a little bit different. But this time I got to have the race of my life and then had the injury. So actually it did come at the right time, in terms of not before the race. So managed to take the shape into the race and then deliver. But it was difficult. But I actually decided that I use like running as well as like not mental health, but I absolutely love it. So it's a big part of my life in terms of not just performance. I'd do it if there wasn't a race at the end. And it's really important to me. And I was really excited about the summer. We had that all planned out. And I just said to myself, I don't want to deal with this injury how I used to deal with it, which is usually like 2 weeks of like being all over the place and not being able to focus and just questioning everything. So I actually, well, one, Lewis was obviously very good with like, right, we need a plan now. So we had really good physio support, with Mark and Ollie, and really got, diagnosed and then knew what we were dealing with. But I actually worked with sports psychologist Sarah, who I've worked with over the last year around race performance. But I worked with her with this injury, and actually that was so helpful because I just said to her, I don't want my chimp to come out and be all over the place. Like, yes, that's fine for a couple of days, but I don't want that for 8 weeks. Like, and that's why I felt like I dealt with this quite professionally, because we made a plan on in terms of like different stages of the injury, when we were gonna when who I needed to check in with, my plan for each day, so what I could achieve each day even though I wasn't running, and then looked at obviously the training side of things. So to be honest, like from coach perspective, physio perspective, psychology perspective, it felt like the most professional I've ever been, which I think is why we call it like performance recovery. So when you do have an injury, it's like focus on the recovery side of things and then what you can do so that you come out of that. Like I came out of the 8 weeks, not stressed, not like the whole world's on top of me, not really upset, not really like overwhelmed. It was like I'm coming off it fresh, ready to go. And that's why I think I had a nice smooth transition into getting back running and feeling excited about running again, not feeling like, oh, the world's against me, I've had another injury again. So I do think the mind is such a powerful tool, and we don't tap into it enough. And I think I just was like, I'm not dealing with this the way I used to deal with them. A new approach is needed. And that was, really helpful.
Yeah, no, I mean that's perfect. That seems like the mature professional way to deal with it. I'm not sure if I would have been able to, or maybe would have just been like, oh my god, the timing, what's happening.
But that's what I would have been like if I hadn't had support.
I think that's probably what like most people are like, to be fair. But then again, like you say, all the things you've just listed there makes perfect sense that would then kind of all stack up to a successful plan. Plus, I guess you did have enough time from this happening through to the start of CCC for it to not be like major panic. We're not talking like 3 weeks pre-race or something where like it's ruined. So you're on the bike a lot. So like, how much do you think you lost physiologically in terms of just like aerobic fitness and like general? Because it's hard to measure, right? You're not doing like super regular testing and stuff. But did you feel like you lost a lot of fitness, or were you able to actually maintain it with all those sessions on the bike? And like, how much were you doing on the bike and the stepper?
Yeah, so I did actually feel like I maintained it really well. The best thing I did was there was no comparison to previous. So like sometimes when you come back and you're a road runner and you've got certain sessions you're gonna do and you're gonna hit, there is that comparison of coming back. Whereas I pretty much went straight out to Morzine and all my stuff was done on trails that I hadn't done before. So like even like hill sessions, it's not the same hill that I was doing. So actually it was a blessing in disguise because there was actually no comparison to my previous before, because Chianti was all done, all the training was done in Loughborough and on rolling terrain. So that was actually really helpful to do that. I think the bike keeps you very fit. Like I was doing 10 to 12 hours on a turbo because I'm not allowed to go outside. No, I am, but I'm not a competent biker. So I don't actually, I don't dare to go. Well, no, I would go outside, but I do it all on the turbo. And then the step machine is, we use that anyway in the UK, and it's great for climbing. So actually, my climbing I felt came on really well this summer. So like by the time I got to CCC, I was in a really good place climbing wise. The biggest thing that was a disadvantage was the descending. So I did my first long run. We had to pick it up quite quickly, but I did the first long run in Morzine a couple of weeks after being back training. And I remember getting to like 20 minutes towards the end of the long run. I was like, Lewis, I can't move down this descent because my hips had just, everything had tightened. But that gradually got better. But you don't do any descending for 8 weeks, and then you come to the mountains and you're descending for 30 minutes or like 4 or 5 miles. And so that is the biggest thing that you can't get when you're just on a bike and you're on a stepper. But climbing, I felt a lot fitter, and probably, it might have not, I might have progressed more if I was running, but I certainly didn't go back. What I felt, I didn't go backwards too much. So
Okay, cool. So that first proper run back, first long run session, whatever, was the when you and Lewis ran the 25K before the race. Yeah, nice. What did you think of the course?
brutal first climb. So yeah, we did the RunThrough Trails 25K, was it? Yeah, in Morzine, on a hot day actually, and it was amazing. Yeah, running up to Avoriaz, the trails were just incredible, and the descent was, techie, but then really lovely and runnable and amazing course. So I would recommend people doing it next year.
Also, Lewis and I had marked it a couple of days before, and we were pretty happy with how we'd marked it. So it was a nice chance for you guys to kind of do a little course check and make sure all the flags were still there, which it sounded like you had to put a few back, but generally it was pretty good. So yeah, obviously it was great to see you there, and then you had the run and retreat camp in Morzine the week after, which obviously is always a lot of work, but that was kind of the start of your, I guess, like European training camp, right? Like you did an entire block, which included a bit of time in Morzine, then over to Chamonix. I know Lewis was back and forth endlessly for like different work commitments and stuff. But obviously he was out with you quite a bit. And then also obviously the Hoka camp as well. So why don't we talk about that now? Like that next phase from, well, first of all, how you felt leaving Morzine, and if the confidence was back and the injury was completely fine, you were ready to like go for it. And then what the setup was in Chamonix and what the thought process was behind spending the whole summer out there ahead of CCC.
Yeah, gosh, that's big to unpick. Where should I start? So yeah, we left Morzine, and then we actually went to watch the Marathon Mont Blanc. Bertie, one of the athletes, was racing. So that was quite cool. That was quite like, get the energy of racing. We were just spectating, but you got that buzz again and thinking, okay, we're going to get this at the end of the summer, but like 10 times bigger.
Was it anything close to UTMB?
No, it was busy and it was amazing, but no. Not the same. And then we were in the van. So our plan was to do 4 weeks, or 2 weeks for Lewis and then 2 weeks with me on my own.
Yeah.
Before I came out, so we decided to do the whole summer out here, and it's a lifestyle change and a lifestyle shift. Like, you're not in your own environment, but I just wanted to give myself a chance, because like last year I did my last long run at Bradgate Park for the ACC, and that's just not it's fine, but it's not what you need to do to what I want to do. Basically, I want to be in the mountains. Yeah, it's not optimal.
Yeah.
It works fine, but I wanted to give myself a chance of being in the mountains and experience. I've never been away from home for that long for something like this. So it was a big step and big change. And I was quite anxious about it to start off with. And then when we got out there, I was like, this is just amazing. We're working, we're running on these trails. It's really cool. So we actually went over to Courmayeur to start off with, and I really like the trails in Italy. Like, I like that side just through the tunnel, and that's where the CCC starts. So my aim was to get to know the course as much as possible, but also then go on some adventure runs, which were outside of the trails. Yeah, we did van life. I did van life for 4 weeks, which is probably the limit of living in the van and trying to work. But it was cool. Like, you learn to live quite simply and like quite basic, and you don't have all the luxuries. But training was going really well, and building. I was getting faster in sessions. I was feeling better. I was doing a lot of climbing, doing a lot of the course and big long runs, and it just all felt like it was meant to be, but also just ticking along quite nicely without any major jumps or things in training. So just building up and living a bit of a French life, which was cool.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's such a cool way to do it, being in the van, and it was. I was impressed. Like, I mean, well, kind of sounds patronizing, but like knowing that Lewis was coming back and seeing you spending time out there, living in the van, cracking on with what you were doing, keeping training consistently. Like, it was cool. It was cool to see. I kind of knew, knowing you, that you'd be loving it, but also that it would feel like a bit of an adventure, like a bit of a challenge. Because there's something a bit weird about living in a van, even when you're on like campsites and stuff. You feel very, or at least I did when Nicola and I did this, driving around Europe and stuff. You got like one tiny little metal sheet, and then the outside world. Like, it can feel quite exposed, especially being there by yourself. So yeah, I mean, I thought that probably was a little bit of a challenge. Training wise, give us an idea of the type of stuff you were doing in those first few weeks in Courmayeur. Obviously, you've stepped up from 50K to 100K.
Yeah.
goal race wise, what was the biggest change in training? Were you doing super long runs? Were you doing less intensity? Like, yeah, just not a breakdown, but like a bit of an idea of what that looked like.
Yeah, so I guess this time, it was very different training to what I've done before. So I didn't really have the same routine as at home. So like usually at home it'd be like easy runs during the week, a Tuesday, Friday. So Tuesday session, Friday tempo, threshold, Sunday long run. Whereas everything just moved and changed. And that's one thing you've got to adapt to. Like I quite like routine, but actually I knew that this block, like you can't do a 6 hour long run on a weekend and then a Tuesday session. Like you're not going to be recovered in time. So everything had to shift and move. And like me and Lewis were, even when I was on my own, we were in constant communication about like, how does the body feel? Actually, we'll move the session to the Thursday. So it tended to be like one threshold session during the week, which was either on hills like climbing or the hill session, but mountain hill session is not the same. Or on the flat, because we found a nice flat, like semi-flat, like undulating. And then we moved into like steady long runs backed up with a long run the next day. So that was kind of the biggest change. So like a 3 hour steady run, and then it started off at like 4 hours, and then it would be like 5, 6, and my longest long run was 7 hours at the day after a steady. So yeah, quite and then like 2.5 hours mid long run during the week. But the distance is only like 8 miles, but you're out time on your feet. So my hours went up training wise, but I felt like my body was able to cope with it really well and recover. So that's the biggest thing, monitoring how you recover. So I never felt like I was like knackered. So I would make sure I was eating really well, make sure I was fueling really well. Pretty much every long run over 90 minutes was fueled. And not just to train the gut, but just to make sure I was recovering. So 90 grams of gels per hour. Uh, then you're getting a lot into you. And then that's probably what was helpful in terms of getting out the next day. But gym work was still in there. That was still really important. So Courmayeur, I went to the gym. Chamonix, I went to the gym like twice a week to start off with, then putting it down to once a week. Kind of the rest and recovery around that, which, helps to then enable you to do that training.
So the 7 hour long run, was that the longest run you've ever done?
Yeah, so I've done 2 7 hour races, and then so that was the longest in terms of no, it was the same as the races.
OCC was
OCC was like 650 something, and then Chianti was like 702. But obviously the 7 hour run was slower, so it didn't cover the same distance.
No.
But yeah, that was the longest run I've done, and then the race was 6 hours longer than that. So that was the massive unknown. And we've already started talking about like next year and what we perhaps need to do to bridge that gap between your long run and how do you do that in races, because you don't get much more. There's no point really going out for a 10-hour long run. It's not gonna, the risk to benefit ratio, there's no point in doing that. So it's like, how can you get that from racing and different things?
So you were doing like 90 grams an hour of fuel on the 4, 5, 6, 7 hour long runs on the weekend, even at steady effort.
Yeah.
Could you tell much of a difference? I don't think I've ever fueled that much on probably on like a couple of long runs getting closer towards race time when you're doing like your specific long runs, but they're probably more like 2.5, 3 hours. So even if I'm trying to get 90 grams an hour, which is, we'd probably take about the same, like goal amount in a race, that's only, like whatever, 250 grams might be the most I've ever taken in a training run. Did you actually do 90 grams an hour on the 7 hour run? That's horrendous. How do you feel after that? Because like I feel awful after a race because of the amount of gels and caffeine and stuff that I've taken. Was that weird doing that in a training run? Because that's so much, I don't know, like multidextrone and carb mix and
Yeah, no, I feel sorry for my dentist, but no, I do that like 3 months, 2 months out. Like I'll do every long run fueled because I mean, I did have I did have tummy issues in the race, but not like up to 6 hours. It was fine. But so there's a few learnings and changes there. But no, from 3 months out, every long run will be fueled to the amount that I'm thinking of fueling. The only time sometimes like a 2 hour run won't be because I'll be like, I'll just have one gel instead of trying to do that. But I think it's really important. And I think that's the thing that people underestimate. Like you need to train your gut to be able to tolerate that. So often when I finish, I'm a bit like, oh, I can't stomach much, but I'll still be able to eat my dinner and things. So it's again, you're just training your gut, but it has a massive impact on recovery. So 3 hour run with 90 grams would be like 1,000 calories. So like, so you're taking 2,000 calories to like, in that time. And actually that means that you don't have to replace that. You replace that with just normal food afterwards. But look at how that recovery, if you don't take that, what happens to the body? And I think that makes a big difference of then what training you can tolerate, injury, like you're not breaking down, you're not becoming too fatigued. So that knock-on effect into the next week and the week after's training. So I think it's a thing that people underestimate. They think, I'm just going to do it for 2 long runs before this big race. Actually, it needs to be way ahead of that.
Interesting. All right, nice. And then, so you're out there for a month in Chamonix, Courmayeur, the general area of the CCC course before going into the Hoka camp. Is that about right? Yeah.
4 weeks.
Okay, nice. So, I mean, first of all, tell everyone who you were room sharing with, because you had a pretty cool room allocation.
Yeah, so I got there and I was like a little bit nervous. Obviously, it's like the first day at school when you're meeting new people, and I'm going into a world-class team with incredible athletes. And then, I got the room in list, and it was Jim Walmsley and his wife Jess. And I knew Jess, kind of Lewis met her in Chianti, and I knew that she was lovely, kind of from what I'd seen. So I was like, okay, this will be okay. And then Vincent was in there, and then Hayden Hawkes, and then Alison Backer, who I shared with. She was like 6th at the world a few years ago. And so, it was a bit daunting initially, but if you bring some Yorkshire tea and get the English vibe going, you can break the ice. And that's why I was like, what can I do as an icebreaker? Okay, I'll get everyone on Yorkshire tea. And the way I have it, which is weak and milky, but I actually converted them all, and Yorkshire decaf actually. So I'm still waiting for a Yorkshire tea sponsorship, because that would be really cool. So, but no, it wasn't. When I got there, like all the worries kind of disappeared, because everyone is normal, everyone's chilled, relaxed. There's no real egos. Like everyone's really welcoming. Everyone is really fast. So some of the runs are hard, but it was a really good environment to be in. And that's what I wanted to do this year. I wanted to learn as much as I can, because I want to step up. I've just stepped up to 100K, but I'm still relatively new to all of this. And I think the 50K is like, there's a lot about racing and there's fueling, but 100K plus, there's a hell of a lot more. And I was like, if I can learn as much as possible from their experiences from 100K upwards and what they do fueling, kit wise, like all of that sort of stuff, I'm going to come away this summer in a much better position. And so in a way, it was just all about being curious, chatting to them, like learning all of that sort of stuff, so that regardless of what happens this summer, I can take that into the future. And that, I think that experience is so valuable.
Nice. Go on then. So you've set up the next question basically yourself. What gives you top 3 things that you learned from the other Hoka? Is it Hoka or Hoka? How have you been told to say Hoka? No. I'm saying Hoka. You're saying Hoka. I know it's not 1-1, so that's fine. Anyway, I'll continue with Hoka just in case. So, top 3 things that you took away from the other members of the Hoka team during your time at the camp. What would you say?
So number 1 would be that there's no magic formula or bullet. So like it is just like, I think normal runners or day-to-day runners look at like, what can I do, these 1%ers, whereas actually you just do the basics, like just train well, train hard, recover well, and that's what the elite athletes do. And they're not like, I was in a chalet and none of them had any of these like 1%ers that everyone's bothered about, like these altitude tents. They're not having all of that, or like they're doing a bit of sauna but they're not obsessing with things. They're doing things right and doing the basics, and there's no magic formula. It's just hard work, and that's like hard work physically, mental preparation. And also the other thing is being completely chilled outside of running. So when they're not running, they're just chilled, like watching TV, reading books, doing a bit of work. Like they're not obsessing about running. So that's like, and people think the opposite of elite athletes. I think they're sat on the sofa, like dead serious, thinking about their running 24 hours a day. And they're the best of the best of focusing when they need to focus and switching off when they need to switch off. And that was one big learning. Like we do that anyway. So kind of, it wasn't a surprise, but it was nice to see. The other thing is as well, like nutrition wise, everyone had such a varied diet. There wasn't like you sat down at a meal and no one's restricting. Everyone's really chilled with their food. And race week is slightly different, but actually everyone was eating really well and fueling their bodies for what they need to do. They're putting in a lot of hours of training, and even more so in the mountains, which requires a bigger demand of the body. So it was really nice to see that, you weren't sitting at dinner with people restricting what they're eating, having tiny portions. It was like, get this food into you and have that balanced diet. And I saw that pretty much from every single person there. So that was really cool. And then I can't really think of the third. I've done 2, and I think I've done 2 good ones.
That's 2 good ones. That's fine. So like, yeah, I'm interested in what's the setup like when you go on a professional camp. Obviously, I assume all the different brands do it differently, but there's probably a little bit of a formula because you've got different athletes racing different distances with different levels of ability. They're all elite, but the difference between the slowest female athlete there and the fastest male athlete is still huge. So they're not training together. They've all got different coaches. They've all got different, probably like training philosophies. And you're really only there for like, was it a week, 2 weeks? And you're also out of routine. You're in this chalet. What's the point? Like, I know they want to get the team together and build camaraderie, and they obviously want to get some content and stuff, like from a business point of view. What's in it for the athletes? Like, obviously for you, you've just said all these things you want to learn. But for people like Hayden and Jim and these people who are super experienced, been around the block, probably pretty confident, knowing what they're doing, Judith, etc. What do you think they're getting out of it? And how do you structure these runs? Are you given loops? Are you told what to do each day? Is it just like a group of mates in a chalet and you work it all out? Like, what is it?
Yeah, a group of mates in a chalet and you work it all out. But yeah, because I think it's different to like road and track running where you go and meet at the track and you know that you're gonna do either track session or a road session. So it does feel like a different vibe to that because you've got all these mountains to go and explore, which is really cool. But you also, what I did like about it was like you are speaking to people and asking, like kind of getting a gauge of like the ability level and like obviously some of them that are unreal and you're never going to run with them, but actually like who can I go and run with, who's going easy today, who's going flat today, who's going like in the mountains. And then the other thing is you have to go and plan your routes. Like you've not got, well actually I had Lewis to plan mine.
Yeah. You don't.
Independent mountain person, and I asked Lewis, but like you still need to, yeah, we're all adults as well. We're not on children on a camp, and actually you are left to your own devices to do that. But a lot of the guys like grouped together and did sessions, and like Chris Jones was out there from the UK and like he would jump in with Jim and Puppy and yeah, so like they are like,
That's so cool.
but you are just talking to each other and saying, what session are you doing today? And if it fits with your plan, or you might adjust it slightly. So like, for example, I did a run with Judith and Manon on the Monday, and we went all the way up to Mount Jolie, which wouldn't be, I probably ideally would do more of a recovery run, but it worked fine. And like, it was supposed to be 90 minutes, I did 2 hours. Like, I'm not going to do that every day, but it was fine for that day. So it's like, yeah, you don't want to deviate too far away from your plan. And some runs I did on my own because of that. But actually it was really nice to group together. And I think the reason for the camp was to get a real team feeling environment. And the week of the race and on the race and afterwards when we saw everyone, it felt like that, and everyone bonded really well as a team. And I think that's the first time they've done it in that way. But their first week was like a media, people were training, but it was also a media week. So for some of the top guys, they were being filmed a lot during that week. And there was the launch of the Mafati 5, which is biased, but an amazing trail shoe. But then the second week, the kind of media side of things stopped. And because Lewis came back, I went, instead of Lou living in the van and me living in the chalet, we went back and stayed together. But some of the team then stayed in the chalet and trained out there together. So yeah, some people stayed and just did their own thing and did training together. But you think as well, you're being supported in accommodation for 1 or 2 weeks, which you'd have to pay for normally. And you've got physio access. Like we had physio access with Adrian every day, pretty much whenever we want. First week was cooking. You were cooked for. Second week you had to cook. But, yeah, the setup is like that elite training camp feel. And now I've been on one, I know what to expect. So it feels a little bit easier to navigate.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, it's so cool. It's like one of those big parts of being part of a team, especially those sorts of names and like the brand that literally is the headline partner for the UTMB World Series finals. Yeah, class. Sounds amazing. And it's cool that it's like that nice chilled vibe and you just kind of go and do whatever. I guess that kind of fits with everything we chatted before starting the podcast. Yeah, I guess I'm kind of surprised by how laid back all these guys seem to have been from like your perception of it and the way we're chatting about it. But also I'm not surprised at all because you think about the type of characters and the type of sport and the general vibe and culture in trail running, even the best of the best are pretty laid back, chill people with pretty small egos who are just excited to be in Chamonix training and running together. And they're all probably like mates too, right? They've raced each other a million times. Like I'm sure Hayden and Jim know each other and like, yeah, I don't know.
Tell you a story. So this is how chilled people are. So Ludovic Pomeroy was on the camp, and he'd won Hard Rock and I think a course record. And he was debating whether to do UTMB, and he's just finished, I think, 5th at UTMB.
Not sure.
5th or 6th. I'm sure it's 5th. Lewis will tell us, sixth at UTMB, and he was fifth last year, and he's turned 50 when we were on the camp. And I was chatting to him about Hard Rock, and I said to him, well, how long did you go out before Hard Rock? And because I was trying to get an idea for like if I ever do Western States, like how long would you have to go out? And he was like, oh, I went out 5 weeks before because it's really high altitude. And first of all, he went out and just hiked round the course with his wife, and then he did some course recce's running. And me and another girl said to him, oh, where did you stay? And he said, in my car. And we were like, okay, what, in a van? And he was like, no, in my car. And I was like, what, for 5 weeks? And I just spent 4 weeks in the van being like, this is my maximum time I can be in the van. And so he showed us his car. And it was the car with a mattress in it. And and he said to us, so every year I buy something new. And we were like, well, what did you buy? And he said, I got a table so I could put my dinner on the table. And honestly, I was like, I want to be more Ludo. Like 50-year-old, winning Hard Rock, coming sixth at UTMB, living in his car. And then his first, like his purchase this year was just a nice table for his car, like for eating. And then we were like, well, where did you shower? Just in the streams. I'm like, that's what you want to do, don't you? Like, it's inspiring. I mean, you don't all have to do that, but I was like, that is, yeah, absolutely amazing.
I mean, it fits with his personality, how he comes across at least, and also with Hard Rock as a race. Like, it's kind of that grassroots, like absolutely brutal, massive elevation, really difficult. It's not a place that you think of as like, you don't think of it as an athletic endeavor. You think of it as like a crazy mountain adventure. And the fact that I think it was a course record, to be able to run a course record at basically 50, first time running that race, believe. Okay, well, there you go. Ridiculous. Yeah. Okay. So, I mean, yeah, kind of makes sense. But yeah, that is kind of hilarious. With his wife in the car as well.
Yeah.
Mental. Fair play. All right, cool. Well, into the race, I think then, probably. The one thing I wanted to touch on actually before we went into the race, just super briefly, is the shoes. Because I know that you were running a lot in the Adidas. Well, we can't say that word, so I'll stop. But in a different brand shoe. No, I'm joking. But you said obviously the shoes are super important. And obviously that's one of the most important things from the brand. You can get by with like all the other kit and the race singlet and the running vest and whatever, all the other stuff. Realistically, the shoes, if the shoes don't work for you, then you can't really represent that brand. So I'm assuming that you're obviously running their carbon trail race shoes. I know that they brought out a new model at UTMB last year. Were you just running in that same model? What do you think of them? How did you find them? And were there any compromises compared to what you were running in before? Or would you have worn that shoe regardless of the sponsorship?
Yeah, so I would have wore the shoe regardless of sponsorship because I wore the Hoka Tecton X3s in Chianti and was really comfortable. It was wet, muddy, not as technical in terms of mountain, but it was still rocky and technical. But there's no perfect shoe so like the CCC, there is no perfect shoe. You could probably shoe change because like you wouldn't want to because of time and aid stations, but a shoe isn't going to give you everything on every part of the course because some of it's very, very runnable. Some of it's very, very technical. When the weather comes in like it did, you've got rocky, slippy, like grip wise, everything changes across the whole course. So it's like you just need the shoe to give you 80% of what you need. And then you just have to deal with the other 20 not being great. So I went for the Tecton X3s, but in my last long run before the race, I had an issue with the shoe and ended up, getting an issue on a rock and then needing a new pair. But unfortunately, the new pair weren't worn in. So I actually wore the shoe that I'd worn for quite a long time. And looking back, I think it may have been a little bit flat. So I should have gone with the new shoe. So kind of a bit of a decision there to be like, that foam probably wasn't giving me as much as I need to if I wore like the new version of the Tecton X3. I was also thinking about wearing the Mafati 5. So I know that it's just come out and I'm not doing this because I'm just pushing the shoe. But for me, the shoe massively works because it has a higher heel to toe drop than like most shoes. I think it's 8 mil. But it's also the grip's absolutely amazing. So I did one of the fastest like 6-hour runs with a couple of the Hoka girls from Chamonix to Chamonix. And it was in the pouring down rain and I just felt very comfortable on technical terrain in it, but it's a bit heavier and doesn't have carbon plate in it. So I said to the product guys, I was like, can you make this shoe with carbon in it with that grip because it's a bit lighter because it's Unreal. But I went for the X3s and they were absolutely fine during the race. Like I think they gave me enough grip on the technical wet terrain and felt really comfortable on the runnable sections. So that is the shoe that I like, and that I probably will wear for most races, unless obviously they bring out something new, which would be cool. But like you say, footwear is super important. But I think you just got to go for 80% of the course feeling comfortable, because there's no shoe that, especially when you start to put carbon in it, it's going to be amazing for all of it. Or if it's not got carbon in it, what about all the runnable sections, which can be quite a lot anyways?
Okay, nice. Cool. So onto the race then.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like most people probably have heard of it. Everyone's probably heard of UTMB, but CCC, Courmayeur, Champay-Lac, Chamonix, 100K, 6,000 meters, pretty much. The last two, all right, I knew you were going to do that. 102K, the last 2/3 of UTMB, basically, right? Identical or any changes?
No, so we do a different climb out of Courmayeur. So we do a climb. So our climb from Courmayeur goes all the way up to Tete de la Tronche. That's how you say it. And you'll probably pull me up on that. So for me, that's an hour and a half climb. Like, it's brutal. Whereas UTMB, they go up to Bavant Refuge. So they do like this switchback. So we do this massive loop round. They go from Courmayeur somewhere and then up the switchback to Bavant Refuge. So I think that's how you say it. Yeah, Lewis is in the background going, not Bavant. What's it called?
Baton. Come on, we all know. We know it's
That's the VK bit out of Chamonix Bavant.
no, that's Brevant. But yeah, okay. Let's moving swiftly on. So CCC, she may have run very well at it, but still learning the names. Walk us through the race. So obviously you had to go over to Courmayeur. You went over a couple of days before, right?
Yeah.
And then race starts in Courmayeur, finishes in Chamonix. 3 crewed points, which I know you had Lewis out there crewing. Any input from like the Hoka team on crewing athletes, or is that not so much a thing? Are people just crewed by their like family and coaches and stuff?
No, if you want to speak to some of the girls, if you want some of the Hoka team to crew you, I think you can. Like, there isn't a big staff team, but if you're really struggling, then you would let them know and they'd be able to help you. But obviously we were already set up. Like, I would always have Lewis to crew me, family out there to support. So yeah, that kind of was already set up.
Okay, nice. So talk us through it. I know that we had crazy weather the day before. So Bertie, as you mentioned, and like a load of other people obviously racing in OCC, which we both raced last year. They had some significant course changes. We had a lot of rain. Obviously, we're sat here now in Annecy. That night we were looking out of the windows and it was crazy thunderstorm, torrential rain, horrendous. I imagine you had the same weather in Courmayeur. And then it did clear in the morning and then kind of got progressively worse through. So did they make any last minute course changes to CCC like they did with OCC, or was it pretty much the same course that you'd been kind of preparing for?
Yeah, so CCC was exactly the same as what we were preparing for, which was really nice because I really wanted to do that course. And the only difference is we got an alert the night before saying cold weather kit, which meant you had to have another warm layer, goggles or sunglasses. Like, so you had to have your well, it's not goggles, but like, well, sunglasses counted. But if you wanted to wear winter goggles, then, because we're going into the night, but actually, if you went through the whole night on the Friday, that would have been brutal. I don't know. At one point, I think goggles would have been better. And then what else? Extra kit we needed, something else, I think. But yeah, so the cold weather kit was activated for that, which was actually, like, when you look at it and you go, "Oh, I've got to put this extra kit in," it was actually well needed. Like, if you did had to stop up a mountain, like, you needed the stuff that they told you. So mountain safety and all of that is important first off. So totally get that. So yeah, same course as what we were told, which was really nice because I didn't want to do a different one.
I knew you would absolutely. When I heard Bertie's course change, I thought I really hope they don't change CCC because I just knew. Well, I don't know, but I imagined that like that would be something that would really bother you because you're so prepared. You've been there. You spent all this time thinking about it. Like, you probably felt really comfortable with where you were going and what it looked like and how the trails felt. And to have that massively changed, I kind of felt like probably would have I don't know, impacted you mentally quite a lot going into the race, especially. Oh, maybe not. Maybe it's I shouldn't judge anyway.
I actually said when the OCC course changed, I was like, "Oh, that would suit me. Damn, it's not. I'm not doing that this year."
I saw that and thought exactly the same. I thought that finish looks like a dream. Right, so take us to the start line and kind of the start of the race and that first climb. You've done big races. You've run really well in big races. Was this just similar to like a Chianti, an OCC, or whatever, or did it feel different either because of the atmosphere or just because of it being like a longer race, a new challenge, something you hadn't done before? Yeah, how did you feel at the start of the race?
Yeah, we went over. So we went over on the Wednesday before, which was such a good idea because I was able to settle into the apartment, was with my mum and dad. Lou went over to Crew Bertie, and I felt like I spent the day before watching the OCC and then got really excited. And I was like, need to chill out here because this is like a whole day of watching that and getting excited about races. But I felt really relaxed. Like the only thing I was worried about was I guess the gap of the time of like how long the race was going to take me. But I think like I think I've worked with a psychologist now. Like I'm always quite relaxed before races, but I read a book, I switch off. And I always think with these longer races, you have so much time to figure it out. Like in Chianti, I said I've got like 7 hours to figure this out. Like chill out. Like I don't need to be nervous on the start line. It's not a 5K where you got to get on pace. Like if you're not on pace or you don't feel great early on, like there's so many hours. So and a lot's going to happen in that amount of time. So that's what helps me feel that little bit more relaxed. And it was really nice because we stayed like a 5 minute jog from the start line. So like I was able to just literally jog over, meet mum and dad and Lou over there, and then just yeah. I think because I'd done OCC, like I knew what to expect. Whereas OCC, I was quite nervous at start. So I was like, you don't really know what to expect, how things work, where you need to go. Whereas it was quite similar. You had the elite start pen. You could go in 20-25 minutes before, and then yeah, it was just quite easy. So I did feel quite like nervous but actually excited. Like on the start line they play all the dramatic music, which I absolutely love. Like I choose to be part of this, I choose to be doing this, and like that dramaticness, I'm just like, this is amazing. Like where else would I rather be? And they played like the Earth song by Michael Jackson about the world and the environment, and I just got quite emotional because I was like, this is amazing that I get to do this. Like no matter what happens performance wise, I'm stood on start line about to go and run for 12, 13, 14 hours in the mountains. Like, what better way to spend your life? And yeah, so I think it's like that kind of gratitude of being like, I'm here, I'm ready to go, I'm not injured. Like I said to my mum and dad after the race, I was like, it's actually like a massive achievement for me the last 2 years to be making start lines of these big races without being injured and having to miss them, because that's a battle in itself. Like, getting to the start line injury free is really difficult. So you're actually winning already when you're doing that. And then, yeah, you've got to navigate the race. But yeah, I was just really excited to be there.
Yeah, perfect. I mean, it's the perfect mindset to go into it with, really, isn't it? Just like happy, grateful, already enjoying it, making the most of it. And like you say, you've got so long, like it really doesn't matter. It's way less stressful. Okay, cool, nice. So it's such a long race. We can't possibly go like aid station to aid station or something like that. But I know for me, when I run races, I kind of like, you're experiencing it, but you've also got the little internal narrative going on in your head of like certain moves get made, or you have a low, or you have a high, or there's a particular moment that you remember running with somebody, or a particular view, or whatever it might be. So what's the first super memorable moment? So race starts, goes out, you start that enormous climb, which now you've done. How many times did you run that climb in training total?
3 or 4. One run I did it in twice in the run, and
So you
yeah,
know
so
it
about
pretty well.
yeah.
Yeah. So go on, take us through that kind of first. What was the first section of the run in your mind? Was it to the first aid station? Was it the first 20K? Was it, how were you mentally breaking that down?
Yeah, so I think it was quite good to break it down in terms of like just climbs, so climbs and descents. So I had the route on my watch, but you can't look at it and go 60 miles to go. Like the first climb takes you an hour and a half and you've only done about 3 or 4 miles. It's insane. So you're like that long and you're like, well, there's no point looking at the mileage here. So all I have on my watch is the route, which you don't really need, but just in case, and the time. That's it. That's all I got. So everything else is off RPE, like effort wise. But at the first climb, like people said to me, there's a few people that have said, "Oh, you have to go out hard because it goes into a bottleneck," and it's like bollocks, really. Because yeah, because people are like things. You've got like wide service roads for ages. Like you don't need to go off hard to do that. And then people let you pass on the trails. Like the trails are narrow, but if you want to go past, you can go past. You know what I mean? But actually, like what you realize is when you do it in training, it feels a lot harder. Whereas in a race, like I did it like 5 minutes quicker than I did in training, and it felt a hell of a lot easier because one, you're not fatigued, but two, you're just following people up. So it never feels as long because all you're concentrating on is the person in front of you. And it was quite nice because I climbed just behind Elsie, and when we got a bit close to the top, we had a nice, like, not chat, but we were like saying how cool it was, and like there was another British guy, and and I did look up. That's probably the only time I looked up and was like, this is unreal. Like the views, the snow, the mountains, because they're like sheer and like just there as you get to the top, and you're like, this is pretty cool. And that's probably the only time I let myself kind of feel like that. And then the rest of it was like race mode and crack on. But yeah, so that first climb was pretty cool.
Nice. So how about do you then go into a massive descent, or is it a bit kind of rolling with another climb? Because I'm interested in the descending for a few different reasons. One, because it's always been something you've been trying to work on for the last kind of 12 months or whatever, longer, 18 months or whatever, since you've moved over into like bigger mountain trail running. And it's something you've improved massively at, but also the different style of descending needed for these long races. I know it's something you and Lewis have chatted about. It's something even Lewis and I have talked about a lot. The difference in descending technique and pace and like kind of just even attitude going into a big descent from a 25k to a 50k to a 100k race is so different for a load of different reasons: muscular fatigue, length of the race, efficiency, all this sort of stuff. How did the first significant descent of the race feel? And did you feel like you were in control and able to move quite well? Or did you still feel like you were kind of like working a little bit too hard? Or like, or were you not even kind of in your head like that? Because I would just be terrified of destroying my quads too soon in this length of race.
Yeah. Yeah. That is the tricky thing. It's like it's like in a 6-hour race, this pace I was moving at, I'd be at the end by the time the damage is done.
Exactly.
But yeah, so it is tricky because you come off the top of the first climb and it's a descent. It's more technical than it looks on camera. So like, it's like, do you know the trail where you've got the path, but you've got the outside that's really high, and you knock sometimes the heel or your ankle, and then it's really like uneven in between because the snow and stuff. So it's not like beautiful trail. So it's actually quite technical. So I was just trying to work on being smooth and efficient, but some of it is flat, so that it doesn't feel like you're going downhill too much. Then it flattens off, then it goes up a bit, then it goes down into the aid station. And actually, so for the first 5 hours, I was on target time of what Lewis had set me. So pretty much every checkpoint, I hit it within like 30 seconds or a minute. So which is quite good based off feel. But I am not as efficient at descending for 100k because my hips got quite tight and fatigued quite early on in the race. I was quite surprised when that happened, and so that's something we're going to have to work on, is like, how do you become efficient over 50k? Because I've got a certain amount of speed. I'm not ridiculously quick, but I've improved that. But actually, I'm probably not as efficient as I need to be because I got the fatigue in my legs, which I went through some really bad patches, like 6-7 hours, came out of it, but I didn't need that early. So there's for example, you go down off the first climb and then you go all the way to a Nubes, and then you start to climb the Col Ferret. And the Col Ferret, once you get to the top of the Col Ferret, it's a 20k descent into La Foulée. Yeah. So like if you had a 20k descent in a race, like it's quite rare, isn't it? And after that was when my legs, so I obviously didn't have the efficiency because my legs, my hip, which has been a bit of a problem through the summer, was just like, I don't like this. And I was okay on the flat. But then when I went back into some descending, I was like, how am I going to finish the race? But you come out of that, but you still don't get your legs fully back. So something that we need to work on, but also it's good to do because now you know what you need to do as well.
Yeah. So in that, how long is that 20k descent section? Do you know roughly in terms of time? Like how long that takes you? You descending for a couple of hours there? Probably not quite, right? Hour and a half?
Like, well, no, maybe, no, 20.
Hour would be rapid.
Yeah, no, yeah. It's difficult because I can see the segments in my head, and you've got different parts, I guess, because you then have a flat bit across to La Foulée. So maybe an hour and a half.
Hour. Yeah. So like your mindset through there, did you give yourself any like mental cues and prompts or little words to think of, or for different sections of the course?
Yeah, so before the race, it was like stay patient, like follow the plan, and then it was like just relax, and then it was like believe in yourself, and then it turned into, oh fuck, this is hurting earlier. But on the flatter sections, I'm still moving really well, and then I was like, oh no, nausea is now coming. So it became like one foot in front of the other. Like if you keep moving, And then one of our athletes, Helen, she's had a real hard time with cancer, and she did a podcast, and she's got this phrase, it's like tough times will pass, or something like that. It's tough times will pass. And I just kept saying to myself, I've heard it in ultra running where you do go, like I went to a dark place going up the Bovine climb, like, I mean, Death March dark, like no fuel was going in, legs were just done. And I was like, I'm not going to be able to descend this. And then actually found, like, I was like, tough times will pass, it will pass. And then, so you're using a lot of your mental tools, and then it did pass. Like, I didn't ever feel amazing after that, but it passed, and found my legs came back because they would take on a bit more fuel. And actually, like, that seems to be what happens in ultra running. So like some people are a little bit more level across and can be fine. But I'm actually quite glad I experienced all that in my first race, because I now know how to deal with it. Like, I think if I hadn't done, you're going to get that at some point the longer you go, and now I know mentally how to overcome that. And I just said to myself, if I have to crawl to this finish line, unless I'm injured, I will crawl to that finish line. If I'm going backwards, I don't care. Like, I am getting to that finish line however way I'm going to do it. And then it just became about, like, problems happen, adapt, overcome, move forward. Problems happen, adapt, overcome, move forward. Like, make a decision. Like, fueling wasn't going in, so it's like, I take some rice, put it in the aid station. I'm going to try and take it, force it down me. That's fine. Took some Coke. I'm not going to now fuel for an hour and a bit. Then I'm going to try again, because, like, there's no point forcing things down me when I can't do it. So it's like, you've got enough fuel early on. What can I do now? Let's find a solution. So constant in your head, you're just looking for solutions. Whereas, like, it's easy to think everything's going wrong, this is crap, like, but actually the challenge is there for you to try and overcome. It's there to test you. And that was kind of the biggest thing between a 50K and that 100K distance.
Yeah, I was going to say, what you're describing to me is the difference between a 100 miler and a marathon or a 50K. And obviously 100K sits somewhere in the middle. I'd probably argue that this race specifically is much closer to a 100 miler in terms of the time that you're out there for. Munter rate wise, it's 160 points, 160 plus, right? Which is 100 miles flat. Winning times at Western States aren't that dissimilar from winning times at CCC. So it probably is closer to that kind of time period. And what you're describing there is all the stuff that me and Lewis have talked about on the podcast. Loads of times we've talked about it, where the longer you go, the less it's a test of physiology and fitness and just running ability. And the more it is mental, fueling, mindset, like ability to kind of push through. And you know going in that you're going to have ups and downs. But when the down happens, it doesn't matter how much you've thought about it before and how much you know it, it's still pretty shit for a few minutes when you realize, like, oh, I feel nauseous, I need to fuel, I can't get fuel in, my hips are starting to cramp up, I'm only halfway, what's this going to mean, how am I going to get to the finish? But it sounds like, and you kind of did this through the whole summer, maybe even to some degree, having that niggle and injury and kind of dealing with that so well, maybe that kind of led into then dealing with this stuff during the race quite well. Because it sounds like you stayed pretty calm and just looked for solutions, kept moving, and did eventually come out the other side of it.
Yeah, I think, like I said, mindset is so important, and I'm in this sport to challenge myself and to get the most out of myself, and it's never just going to be easy all the time. And I don't want it to be easy. And, like, yes, I would have preferred a smoother race, but actually we've come away. Like, if I'd have dropped out, what would we have learned? Like, I didn't have a reason to drop out other than it got very, very hard. And you look at the dark places, you're not just in there for a couple of minutes, you're in there for 30, 40 minutes, and you've got to go up a massive mountain while you're in there. Yeah. Like, that's the reality of it. But now it's given me the tools that I didn't have before. And now I'm like, oh, I know what I need to do to get over those. But also I know that we've analysed it already, or I have, and I've looked at the section where I lost the time, and the time that was in that dark place. So I think if things go right and we can improve and learn, like, do a lot of the same, but just make some tweaks to certain things for next year, I know that 20, 30 minutes is there. Like, I really believe it. Whereas in the past, I probably wouldn't have believed I can compete for top 15, top 10. Whereas now I've ran with the girls, I understand what needs to be done, and I understand what that looks like. And now I'm like, oh, actually, I do have that confidence to say, I think I could definitely bridge that gap, because that wasn't a good day at all. And and it's not only that, like, we got the worst weather. Well, not the UTMB got the worst weather conditions, but we got really tough weather conditions. Like, going up to Valacine climb, it was like gale force winds. Like, we were having to put the jackets on, like, absolutely hammer it down. Then you go down a technical descent, which is wet, like muddy now as well. And then your last 2 hours are fully up Montettes and then into Flagey in the pitch black, and then you're descending to Chamonix in the pitch black, which changes the course and changes the kind of feel of running completely. And we did two night runs before this, one which was horrific and I nearly spat my dummy out and I nearly wasn't going to do it. And then the second, which me and Lewis did on our anniversary, which we did the last part of the course and I absolutely loved. And Lou put the tunes on and I was like, I love this night run and I could do UTMB. But then when I was doing it in the night on the race, I was like, I want to run with Lewis because it's much more fun than on my own. But again, I've got another tool to my box where I'm like, I need to practice night running more, but I actually felt quite comfortable with it on that climb and the weather was horrific. So if I can do that in the rain and the dark and the damp and the cold, what can you do when it's dry and just dark? So again, you're learning I actually quite liked it being bad conditions because you learn a lot more than if you had like the perfect day, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting too because the weather was absolutely brutal, but you just never know what you're going to get. And I think with these types of places and being in the mountains, being in places like Chamonix or anywhere else where you have like trail races in big mountains, weather just changes so fast. And even since moving here to Annecy, we're not in the big mountains, we're in like the foothills of the Alps, but you'll have 30 degrees in the day. Then all of a sudden, this black like thing just descends, and you're like, "Oh, all right, it's going to piss down." Then it's torrential, like tropical storm blowing branches through the house, and then it's thunder and lightning. Then it's like hot and sunny, and you go down to the lake for a swim. And we're not even in big mountains here. So then you extrapolate that out to places like Chamonix or even in Engelberg, where we just were last weekend for our event. And you realize how quickly these things change and how even with the same course, you're never going to have the same experience twice, which is actually really, really cool, but also brings home that reality of like, you can't really wait for the perfect day because like there'll never be the perfect day because last year it was 35 degrees and we were dehydrated and boiling hot.
Yeah, and we had it this year where like actually the first like it was beautiful blue skies when we started. For the first 6 hours of the race, it was warm. Like we were starting to use the hot weather protocol, so it was like it turned into every aid station putting the like water over my neck, troughs like taking on more water, and then suddenly it was like, oh god, jackets on, like cold. And like Lewis said, in Valacine aid station, one girl went out with a waterproof jacket, one went out with ice on her neck, and I think the one with ice on the neck definitely regretted it. But you know what I mean? You're going into different conditions and they suddenly just turn. And like, yeah, we all want the perfect race, and hopefully, like, I don't think you'll ever get a perfect race in an ultra. I think everyone has the ups and downs or times when they can't fuel or feeling bad, but you can definitely probably try and get it more level away. Like the stuff we're going to learn about the fueling for these longer races. But it's like, actually, like if you can navigate those conditions, it only adds to your experience. And like we saw like Tom Evans and Josh Wade in the UTMB, and they, you're from England, you're like military background. Tom, Josh Wade running up Helvellyn in the snow, like he's like, bring it on. And I love that. And I'm like, it's made me really like, it's inspired me to be like, I want to be more like that. Like Lewis will laugh because like when we first did on Iron, I was like, I'm not going up in the rain and the cold. I'm like, this is dangerous. But actually, it's like, actually, I want those skills as well. Like I want to be able to be tough and cope with those conditions. And I think like Friday was the first step of going, actually, yeah, I can cope with that. I'd like to go a little bit faster and be higher up. But yeah, I've been able to actually get through that. So that's quite, you're not just, I always think like with these races, and this can relate to people out there, like people just look at the outcome goal and say, am I happy or am I disappointed? Whereas actually there's so many process goals in between that we've achieved and ticked off that actually like you can look at a race and say, I'm disappointed with my position, my time, I would like to have been better. But actually we've achieved all of this. And that's like one of the goals. My number one goal was just get to the finish line, and I've done that. So don't be disappointed. Like, yes, learn from the other things, but look at all your process goals and see what you have achieved.
Totally. And be realistic about like the time frame and expectations, because your progression's been so fast that you have these expectations. And yeah, you could have run a faster time, you could have had a better race, you could have placed higher, of course, like you always could. Definitely. And if there's that 30 minutes that you've lost, I mean, it'd be interesting to see your split for that climb from again, like I'll show my ignorance here, but like from the sort of Champay-Lac area aid station up to the top of the Bovine versus when we did it on that easy 4-hour run and we were like flying. I was like, Gemma, I think we're going a bit too quick. A lot slower. That's what I mean, though. So, like, that all that time is there because that climb is massive and like pretty technical too. And it was rivers when it was 35 degrees. So I imagine you were just in rivers. It was just our river, yeah. I mean, I started cramping at the top of that climb. I was 10k into it. It was easy. Not 70K. Yeah, well, no, thank you. I won't do that. But all the times there and all the blah 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 blah. But at the end of the day, it was a year ago now where we were sat in Chamonix, pretty much post OCC, and you were like, maybe we'll go and check out some of the CCC route, and maybe I'll think about. And I know in your own head you were probably already planning it, and it's something that you wanted to do is go up in distance, but OCC was a big jump up, and then Chianti was a big jump, and this was a big jump again. So it's barely even a setback. Like, it's not a bad result at all. It's an amazing result. Even if it isn't the time you wanted, you're not sitting here having run 15 hours. Like, you've run. Well, you tell me, what was the target and what was the finish time, and what in your head was like a goal kind of finish position, and where did you finish, just for context?
Yeah, so I was 22nd and finished in 13:24. Um, I guess our target time was 12:40, so which I was on for the first like 5-6 hours, and I didn't feel like that was pushing at all. Like, I felt really comfortable, and it was just the kind of muscular fatigue and tightness in the hips that slowed me down a lot.
Yeah.
And then I guess the nausea, but I don't think the nausea. Maybe the lack of fueling did, because obviously, yeah, it must do, yeah. Um, but yeah, so I guess my time last year would have got me top 10. I think it got me 8th or ninth. So the depth this year was ridiculous. But I don't want to keep sitting here and saying, last year I was this, and then this year I'm actually 22nd. So yes, the depth has come on, but I want to move on with that depth, if that makes sense. And I think it's good to kind of, I think in the past I haven't really believed in myself in this mountain running world, because like you say, I've not really come from it. I was running flat, and it still is early on, and I'm okay with that. I'm not going to go back, and we're not changing everything. We are going to do much of the same, but we're tweaking things, and because a lot of things are there, like my flat running and my climbing, and are actually there, and so my descending speed is there. It's just the efficiency of how you can do it, and it can still improve the descending sides, but that is the skill. So in a way, it's harder to bump the climbing speed up anymore. You can still get fitter, but actually the descending is a good win that you can look at from all aspects. So yeah, that's kind of where we are.
Yeah, it's like all I'm seeing is just like success after success, in the sense of like some amazing races this year at Arc and Chianti, really good training block, new experience, spending so long away from home in the van, like spending the time in Chamonix, signing the deal with Hoka, going and having that experience at the camp, meeting all these people, realizing, I can run with these people. They're just humans. They're normal. They're going to have a piece of chocolate and a cup of tea. I'm going to go for a jog with Judith, and we're going to go a bit long, but it's all good. We're going to have a nice chat, and they're just human. I can do this. And then going into the race, still finishing 22nd, regardless of what that would have meant last year. Because at the end of the day, you're one of the people that's bumped the level up this year. You got to almost think about it more like that. You know, you're one, like, a lot of the people in that race this year are doing it for the second, third, 10th time. You're debuting. Less people are debuting than are not, I would imagine. That might not be true, but it stands to reason that it would be. So you're one of those people that's pushing that level up. So all you really have to do, in my mind, like, is exactly what you're saying. Learn from the lessons. There's going to be stuff with fueling. There's going to be stuff with muscular endurance. You're going to just have to gain a lot more experience in terms of like longer races, and that's just going to take time. But at the end of the day, you've really enjoyed it. It seems like you have. You've learned loads. You've had an amazing experience, and you're still super early on in the journey. So if you just kind of churn out another 12 months like the previous 12 months, the position that you'll be in this time next year, assuming you want to go back, which is pretty obvious that you do. I was going to say, how could you not run a better race? But you could easily not. You could blow up. You could vomit everywhere. You could be ill. You could get injured. All these things could go wrong. But all things being even, you're on a really nice trajectory. Like, I don't in any way, as an external viewer of this, see that as like not a good race. I see that as a great race. Like, if you would have run 12 hours 40 and come 10th or something, that would be insane. That would be insane. So it seems to me like a massive success. I was super impressed. I think, yeah, it's great.
Thank you. That was a really nice way of putting it. And that's, yeah. Yeah. And I do. And I think it's important to reflect on that, because you don't want to be hard on yourself for too long, because actually you want to take that confidence with you. And you're right. Like, I've had the best summer of my life. And like, yeah, it's been tested myself in so many different ways, but been absolutely amazing. And I've shown, not even racing like that. You can live in a van for 4 weeks. You can spend 2 weeks on your own in the mountains, like navigating the mountains. You can be in a country that you don't speak French, and you can learn French and meeting new people. There was a lot going on in those 3 months, and like, I think the biggest thing is like, I would do this. We use the phrase like with or without you, and use it in business and in life. And it's like, I would be doing this with or without a sponsorship from Hoka, with or without, people wanting me to do it, because I found the freedom in the mountains and it is my happy place. And like, I want to keep challenging my mind and my body. And I feel like this is just my freedom and my place to do it. And I think that the biggest thing for me is like, I debuted at my first 100K on probably the biggest stage. It's like the trail running Olympics. It's got the best of the best. And that is a big debut to have. But actually, like, why should I fear that? Like, I'm not going to fear failure, like, because you won't do those things if you just fear what might happen. And actually, why don't you flip it and say, well, what could happen? And if you have that mindset, you will go into these challenges like not being worried about doing it on the biggest stage or competing against the best of the best. Like, this is what I want to do, and I do thrive on that. And yeah, I'm already excited. Like, I've come away from the summer more motivated and more inspired. Like, the girls, like the two Brits, Elsie Davis and Fee Pascal, like, they were kind of just ahead and like having amazing runs. And that's inspiring to have three Brits in the top like 22. And then the Hoka girls, like 1, 2, Martina and Sylvia. And then we had like a lot in the top 10 and top 15. And you say, and these are who I'm surrounded by, and I can see how they do it. And so you're coming away more motivated than ever. Yes, I need the rest and recovery. I'll be having 2 weeks off, but my legs are like the worst I've ever felt. But it's exciting to like be like, actually, I am excited for next year. I'm not like, oh, I don't really want to do this ever again. Like, I'm excited for what we can do next and where we can go and what the training looks like, because the training for me is like so much cooler than like road training. Like, I love it. It's just so different. And yeah, I'm already excited about different things we can do next year, what races we can do, and then all building up back into CCC again.
Yeah, it's such a different vibe than sitting here having run like 3 minutes outside of goal time for a road marathon and to go back into another 16-week block of the same 4x5K and whatever, the exact same thing. It doesn't need to be that at all. You've got all these different things you can do. And even if you went back and did the same thing again, I reckon you'd be pretty keen to just do exactly the same thing again, because it is such an amazing place.
Like the kind of also like you haven't asked me about one split like in the race, like we've said about like I've hit loads of splits, but we're not really talking about, we haven't like the end time, but it's the stories that you learn about yourself through. And I know performance is still a number one priority for me, but I'm like, there's so much I can talk about and unpick in this race. Like, it's not just like, oh, I've got this fitness and I've ran this time. Like, it's just, yeah, I just love being able to unpick it all, talk about it all. And there's so many ups and downs, and yeah, so many stories that you can tell. And I can imagine going into UTMB like even more. And I think that's the most amazing thing about trail running. And you've got people at the elite level and people that are finishing like just at the cutoffs, covering the same course, experience the same conditions, even more impressive because they're out for longer. But you can tell each other the stories that you've been through. Whereas with road running, there's only a certain amount. I mean, I don't hate running, I do like I like it, but it's only a certain place you can go with that.
Yeah. Like, yeah, there's not so many stories from a road marathon. You might chat with a couple of people in a group and have a low spot here and there, but it's not the same experience at all. And it is funny because on the Friday when you were racing, I had a double day. And I can't remember what I was doing. I had like 3 by 15 minutes in the morning and then a shakeout in the afternoon. And I went out and warmed up and I was jogging along. I was thinking, oh, I'm looking forward to watching the start of the race on the live stream. And I was thinking about you pre-race and thinking like how you must be feeling and like wanting to be there, but also kind of a little bit nervous for you. And like, whatever, all the normal stuff that you feel like when you know someone who's racing, you kind of invested in it. And I was doing my session. I remember looking down at my watch to like press a lap and I saw that it was 9 o'clock. I was like, oh shit, the race is starting like right now. And so that was just a mad moment of being like, I feel like I'm working a little bit hard doing 3 by 15 minutes on some cycle path, doing nothing. And you guys are starting this insane race. And then we were watching the tracking all through the day. We had the stream on in the background. Amelia was watching. We're obviously following along the whole time. I was texting Lewis back and forth. And then went out and doubled. And then you were still going. And then it started raining. And I was like, oh, I feel a bit tired on this double. Can't really be bothered with this. And I was thinking, all right, Gemma's like coming through Valacine in the dark and the rain. And just like Lewis had been saying, oh, he's getting some watermelon in and a bit of Coke. And I was just thinking, how must she feel? Like, and I'm complaining about this. And then we came back and then we waited for you to kind of see you finish. And then I was like in bed when you were finishing. It was mental. It was just like, I wasn't even there. I really wanted to be there and it just didn't happen this time because of all life and stuff. the length of these races and like the journey you go on is mental when you put it into that context of like a double run, a full day of work, a load of other stuff going on. I'm getting into bed and you just finish it. It's mental.
Yeah, and it's like it hit me the day before the race where I FaceTime my niece and my sister Kirsty and my niece Mila. And I said to Mila, I said, when you get up for school, I'll have just started. Then you're going to have a whole day at school, come back, have dinner, play, go to bed, and I still won't have finished. And she was like, oh, that's a long way. And it's like actually the reality of it. Yeah, that's a long time. But it does. I think it went. I say I think it went quick, but during it you're like, but no, it does go quicker than the amount of hours. Yeah.
Because I was saying that in like even in a 50K, it doesn't feel like you're running for 5-6 hours. Like it feels long, and there's moments where it feels like a minute feels like an hour, but the overall experience is, yeah, anyway. No, it's so cool. Well, I mean, we could talk about it all day probably, but we've already gone over time. So, I mean, I guess it's the age old kind of boring question of what's next, and we haven't got to go into it in much depth. Obviously, recovering, it's like 4 days post race right now. We're going to have a bit of dinner and probably go down and walk in the lake and have a bit of a chill. Are you headed back to the UK now? Like, what are you looking at for the back end of this year? I think like we're assuming you're going back for CCC next year, but like loose idea of kind of next race goal and what the next few months look like.
Yeah, so we're here over the weekend we're going to Morzine and we've got our trail camp in Morzine, so that'll be really good. I don't think I'll be too much guiding, so Kirsty and Lewis might have to take that, and I might just do a little bit of low level hiking.
You could just tell stories.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and then we drive back to the UK Monday because my 90 days will be well and truly up on Monday, Tuesday, and then. Yeah, I did enter the National Road Relays in October, first week of October, but I don't think that's going to happen because I'm definitely not coming back to run quick. So I'll have to tell the team manager at Chelmsford that is not going to happen. But yeah, I'm not sure about before Christmas yet, but I'm going to do the Arc, I think, in January, and then maybe head back to Chianti. We're just deciding like what distance to do, and then yeah, there is like the Europeans and things like that. But yeah, it's a bit, and at the moment, definitely CCC. Yeah, that CCC's in it. Yeah, yeah. But we had a conversation about it today. But obviously don't want to cement too much in the ground just yet. Just getting an idea. But yeah, it will definitely be everything will be prepared towards CCC. Hopefully, because yeah, I want to go back and see what I can do there. And then maybe Western States UTMB in the future. Maybe.
Nice. Okay, exciting. It's funny that because we just said if you repeated the last 12 months in the exact same way that you did, maybe minus the little glute niggle and then maybe a bit more like conditioning and that extra time doing the same things, but did it all the same and then went to CCC, the run you could have, and you've just described the year you just did. So basically going to go back and rinse and repeat, which why not? If it isn't broken, don't fix it. Okay. Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, true. All right. Amazing. Well, obviously, yeah, massive congrats. Like it's so cool to see. And it really is exciting. Like it's a shame not to be there this year, but having people to follow, I don't know about other people who are listening to the podcast and if they knew people that were racing at UTMB or any of the races in the entire week, it's such a cool week of racing. And obviously the whole world turns its eyes to it. The tracking, the live stream, all the coverage, it was just class. Like I just love having it on the TV in the background all weekend and just paying attention. But it was definitely special following along with you. And yeah, like it would have been nice to have been texting Lewis and to be getting back. She's looking great. She's feeling great. It's all perfect. But it was never going to be. And when he said that you were struggling a bit and it was like, okay, it's a low patch. You'll come out a bit, blah, blah, blah. To, like kind of sit here with you now, chat through it all. Because I've not seen you for like a while. And just see how happy you seem. Yeah, it's just awesome. Well, I'm just happy that you're happy. I'm happy that you've enjoyed it. And I'm excited to see how you get on with the next stage. So yeah, I'm kind of rambling a bit now. I'll pass over to you to finish off.
No, thank you. Yeah, it's really nice. This is obviously the first time of them with Lewis and picked like the race, and there's still so much more in my head, but it's really nice to do that. And I think, you know, we only have one life, so like you can be a little bit disappointed about things and that's okay and that's normal, but actually like, yeah, take what you can from the experience in the summer. And like I'd say anybody who has had a tough week this week, like you got to look at Tom Evans, who we spent time with him in Chamonix, and you got to think like he did 2 DNFs and then his high. So you will have highs and lows in the sport and you will overcome them. But the key is just to not give up. And I think that's the biggest message. If you can just keep moving forward in training and in life, and then your times will come. And it's like we will all go through hard times, but you've seen athletes had real low lows, but then have the highs of the highs as well. So it is there. You just got to be patient and keep being curious, keep learning, and keep moving forward.
Yeah, it's another like running metaphor for life, right? You go through the lows and the highs will come during the race, but also through like the periodization of the block, and then through your entire career, and then through your whole life. Like it just is real, right? Make a plan, enjoy the process of doing it, and what happens will happen. And yeah, it's just amazing. Like we're sat here now with this insane view out of the window, in an amazing part of the world, just sharing stories about doing cool things. So that's the whole point. And yeah, I guess for us, we were over in Engelberg last weekend for the RunThrough Trails events. That'd be the last 100k race of this year, which went amazingly well, super smooth, especially after a really challenging event in Morzine. So yeah, really happy with that. We've already got next year's date live. Would highly recommend it to anyone who's looking for a race to do. It falls a week before UTMB, which is like a weird timing in the calendar. But obviously UTMB sells out, massive ballot. Like not everyone that wants to run 100k in the European Alps late August, early September gets into UTMB. Most people don't. So if you are falling into that category next year and you find yourself looking for that type of race, a 50k, 100k type race in unbelievable place in the European Alps, definitely check out Engelberg. It's one of my favorite places in the world. It's unbelievable. And the course is really, we're barely changing anything. It went so well. It's insane. We just put a vlog out actually on the Trails YouTube channel a couple of days ago. So go and check it out. It's the second episode of Beyond the Brand. That was a bit of a behind the scenes of the week with the team out there setting up and putting the event on. Special place. Like if you get a chance to go to Engelberg, absolutely incredible. Right up there with Chamonix. And beyond that, we're looking into our final RunThrough Trails European event over in Ascona Locarno, which is at the start of November. But then that's not even mentioning the stuff going on in the UK. This weekend, we're back in Bournemouth for the Sea to Sky event, which the team are going to deliver. And then the weekend after, we got our first ever Brighton 50-50, and in between a million other events. So as always, it's all go at RunThrough. But yeah, I guess that's the end of our episode for today. Thanks again to Gemma for an amazing recap of an amazing season and an incredible race. And looking forward to seeing you all on the next episode in a couple of weeks' time. Cheers, Gemma.
Thank you. See you soon.